Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. The gang is back together. We're ready to rock and roll after an NFL draft, after a wild weekend. I'm the NFL genius in the upper left corner. We got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Papa Cottrell.
Gentlemen, feels good to be back. Had the little week hiatus. You guys had some NFL talk without me, but I'm ready to get rolling. Obviously, playoffs in the thick of it, and the NFL draft was a little wild, which I'm sure we're going to get into for sure.
We definitely will. In the upper right corner, listen, you don't see Doc. He's not getting Doc tonight. The guy was getting shelled last night, but we bailed him out. In the upper right corner, Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. Billy Shallcross.
A little misleading. Some of the
not misleading. We give him all his flowers every week. He has a great week. He got shelled.
It's fake news, Bill. What's going on?
I said some of it was. Some of the swings are some of the craziest things you've ever seen in your life.
That's fair. Nothing he did wrong. It's just they hit the ball pretty well. But we came back, 2019 victory, and that's all that matters. And whoever sparked the rally, I don't know who led off the inning and got on base. I don't know who that was. Who was that guy? See what I mean? I don't. Sometimes I don't have to give you a road, and I can come around and give them to you again.
Like you said, we won. That's all that matters. Sets us up for next week, and then we handle our business.
Let's get it. So we got a lot to get into. We got NBA playoffs. By the way, if you're in the chat, hold on. Let me click the button. Click the button. We got to do the button thing.
Push the goddamn button.
Well, no, I just want anybody that's in the chat to be able to share us out. Yeah, there you go. You got the button for me. I was about to do the button, and Control got the button for me.
Same. We should have that sound effect from Rush Hour. Push the goddamn button. Yeah.
Push the button. But we got a lot to get into tonight. I'm fired up. Let's talk about NBA playoffs. Let's talk about something that happened last night. Let's talk about Doc Rivers. The Milwaukee Bucks up one. The game's over twice. I almost gave up on that game in the fourth quarter, and I definitely almost gave up in that game in overtime. 118, 111 at the free throw line, up 7. How do you lose that basketball game? Control, help me understand how you lose that basketball game.
I mean, I think it's a blend. As much as I want to blame Doc, he's a big part of it. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, that felt like a game where as many vets as Milwaukee has on their team, everything that could go wrong in that last 40 seconds absolutely went wrong. And ultimately, you have the quite literal end of the game. You have the Gary Trent turnover. And then on the other end, I get you don't want to foul, but at the same time, you cannot have Tyrese Halliburton get an uncontested layup at the hoop. That just absolutely can't happen. You take your chances there on a foul. You don't just let him. 100 times out of 100, that is a made layup. So I think as a whole, obviously they folded down the stretch there. But, as much as I took away from Doc Rivers, during that, Kyle brings up the other point. Doc waited until backs are against the wall, it's 3-1, and that's when he makes the lineup adjustment. That's absolutely insane to me. Kyle Kuzma had been giving that Milwaukee team absolutely nothing, and he just kept going to him over and over and over again. And then he finally said, you know what, Kyle Kuzma, you're really not giving us much. Brook Lopez, in this specific series, you're really not giving us much. We're going to limit your minutes a little bit more here. And look what happens. This Milwaukee Bucks team actually shows a little bit of fight. They match up better. And then, of course, they melt down the stretch there. But absolute choke job from this entire team.
Charlie, how bad was that?
I think Cottrell summed it up with 2 words: complete meltdown. I think you can look at coaching. I think you can look at tactics. I think you can look at in-game play, and you could spread out. You can sprinkle some blame on all of it. Doc Rivers continues to do Doc Rivers things. To your point, in the opening, I think you look at, with the veteran leadership on that team, somebody's got to step up and do something somewhere. That I hate to say it, that watching them in the last 2.5, 3 minutes, they all looked a little overwhelmed and looked a little too, like the moment was a little too big. And it's a shame for Giannis with what's going on around him right now. But I think we all predicted Indiana to win the series, so I'm not really shocked. But if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, to lose the game, I think in that fashion is disheartening and probably a punch in the stomach, because you at least figure you're going to win that, make it 3-2, and at least force a game 6 and see what happens. But it was not good. It was just another, again, I hate to say it, but it's just another blemish on Doc Rivers. And I think now we just wait and see if Giannis ever plays another game with the Bucks, because that's going to be one of the biggest offseason, I would say, headlines throughout the entire summer and fall.
Look, I'll say it very clearly. I watched that game, almost gave up. I told you I almost gave up on it twice. I can't understand it. It was unfathomable. And it's funny because Tyrese Halliburton came out looking like roses. But if you watch the beginning of that overtime, he was awful. The reason they were down 7 is because he was awful. I think he was 0 for 4 in the overtime, shooting threes. He turned the ball over. He was terrible. And 118-111, it was like Milwaukee was like, nah, we really don't want to win this game. We're not trying to play another game. And they fell apart. And it was on every single level. It was embarrassing. And then, obviously we'll talk about the after effects after the game, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's move on. That's an epic collapse. Indiana will move on. They'll take on the Cleveland Cavaliers, who did short work, absolutely short work of the Miami Heat. The funny part is Tyler Hero goes, we ain't getting swept. We ain't getting swept in this series. Went home and proceeded to lose by 80 in 2 straight games. That was brutal. That series was non-competitive. The Cleveland Cavaliers are ready for the next round. What made it very interesting to me was game 2 made it look like, and I remember texting the group and I'm like, that was Miami's best shot and they still couldn't win the game. That was embarrassing. So, Cottrell, you can hype up your Cavaliers after absolute destruction of Miami Heat.
No, I mean, honestly, really not even much for me to hype up. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do against the first ever 10 seed to actually make the playoffs. I think, that's a Miami team that had a void of talent. Obviously, we know they traded away Jimmy in the middle of the season there, and that series went exactly how it was supposed to go. Only thing that I'm happy about is that they didn't play down to level of competition. Games 3 and 4, they absolutely blew the doors off and took care of what they needed to. They got a ton of rest in game 4. Pretty much all the starters set the entire second half there. And Darius Garland had been dealing with an injury, and he got to sit game 3 and game 4. And now you're going up against the Indiana Pacers team who, you still should take care of business, against. But you have Darius, he should be healthy. Your bench for the guys that haven't had a chance to play in the playoffs before, like, DeAndre Hunter getting to this point in the playoffs and Ty Jerome getting to, this point in the playoffs, and, just some of those guys on the bench that you want to rely on that haven't had that experience, Sam Merrill as well. That just gave them an opportunity to play and get their feet up under them and things like that. So it was quite literally the perfect first round that you can, wish for, in a situation like this, especially knowing at the end of that road, you're probably going to see the Boston Celtics for a chance to go to the NBA Finals.
Hey, that's what it's looking like. Shally, Cleveland Cavaliers, anything to say? I don't even think this is like a quick, let's just skip it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, just all around the better team, outmanned, outgunned for Miami. to Cottrell's point, again, the biggest thing you want to do is get through the series, end it early, get no injuries, go home, get a couple, extra days rest, get ready for the next round, and just get ready to advance to like we said. I mean, I don't care who wins the rest of the series. I think we're all shocked if it doesn't end up Cleveland versus Miami or Cleveland versus Boston, excuse me. So again, don't play down, like Cottrell said, don't play down to your competition. Go out, be efficient, take care of business, advance, get rest, get ready for the next round, and then ramp up and get ready for Boston.
I mean, for the interest of time, we're not going to waste any more time on this. We're not going to waste time on the Thunder. That series was over in 4. We're not going to waste any more time on the Celtics handling business versus Orlando. I'm not here to waste time, guys. I'm not here to waste time. I'm not wasting time. We'll talk about these teams when they play real meaningful games. We got series to talk about. Now, we'll talk about the couple 3-1 series that are still going on. And I ask you guys, what chance do you give the Rockets and the Lakers of coming back from a 3-1 deficit? Jimmy Butler hurt. Warriors still found a way to win game 3. Jimmy Butler comes back. Warriors still found a way to win game 4. They're up 3-1, playing in Houston game 5 tonight for the rights to go to the next round. Now, in the other series, you got Anthony Edwards dropping 45 the other night versus the Lakers. And, I questioned this last week. I asked Mo, I asked Shally, how's this man not putting up 40 points a night versus that perimeter defense? And then finally it happened. The Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that Shannon Sharp had it right the whole time. The whole time. We just were reading it wrong. We were reading it wrong. Lakers go home in 5. Lakers in 5. See ya. What chance do you give the Lakers and the Rockets of coming back in this series? And what are your thoughts on this series? I'll start with you, Cottrell, and then we'll go right to Shally.
So I think with the Lakers, I think their goose is cooked. I get it. They got LeBron, they got Luka. They can't play defense, and they don't have Minnesota. You can see it game after game. Minnesota is taking their heart towards the end of the third quarter and then all the way in the fourth quarter, especially when they were in Minnesota. I think the Lakers actually win tonight, but I think in game 6, it is an absolute bloodbath. I could see Minnesota winning game 6 by 25. I think it could get real ugly there. So I'll give the Lakers a 5% chance to win the series. On the flip side of it, though, with the Rockets and Warriors, I actually think that's going to be a higher percentage. I'll give the Rockets a 20% chance. And the reason being is I think the Rockets can take care of business in game 5. So I actually like both home teams. I think we get to game 6. But just seeing how that previous game 4 played out for the Warriors and the Rockets, Draymond Green we know he's hot-headed, he's temperamental, all that stuff. He should have been tossed out of game 4. Him calling the second foul a flagrant foul instead of calling it a tech, just giving it a double tech there to save him and keep him in the game. That was the NBA, throwing Draymond a bone essentially. So I think the Rockets have the ability to win a basketball game, and I think at any point the rest of this series, Draymond can get thrown out. And if Draymond's thrown out of any of these games, specifically game 6, I can see the Rockets winning game 6 and forcing a game 7, and then you got to go back to Houston, play in front of your home crowd. You have momentum at that point. So I'll give the Rockets a 20% chance, mostly being that I can see Draymond pulling another Draymond kind of situation, getting thrown out of a game, similar to the 2016 finals against the Cavs.
Damn, they're not ready for that.
No, that was a suspension, but I'm just saying I could see him getting kicked out of a game. This has been a chippy series. Brooks, Butler, Green, Jalen Green, Draymond Green, everybody's been going at it. If Draymond gets thrown out of a game, this series the pendulum can swing drastically.
Shally, do you give either one of these teams a fighting chance?
Lakers, no. I would agree with Cottrell. I think if you're going to say fighting chance, I think maybe the Rockets. I do agree. I think they both win tonight. And then I agree with Cottrell. I think the Lakers get blown out at Minnesota. I think Golden State takes care of business at home. I think they win a close game probably. That series has been really fun to watch. I don't think they force a game 7. But if I had to put money on either out of either one of the two to do it, it would be Houston. I think they have enough. I think they've shown they can play with Golden State, and they have enough firepower to possibly, to pull off the upset. To win 3 in a row, though, I think that's asking a lot against a veteran-laden team like Golden State, who is, again, they found another level since Jimmy got there, and you're getting playoff Jimmy right now. So, he's scheduled. He's expected to play tonight. So won't be surprised if they get closed out. But I think Houston holds serve tonight at home, forces Game 6. But I think it ends there. I think the Lakers are cooked one way or the other. I don't think they have a shot at all. And the biggest reason is kind of like we talked about. I don't know how they think they're gonna win playoff series with not playing defense. So.
I actually give the Lakers a lot better of a chance than the Rockets. I do. I think that when you have LeBron, when you have Luka, now look, JJ Redick's gonna have to learn, man. JJ Redick is going to have to learn. He went an entire second half with a 40-year-old LeBron James and didn't make one substitution. I don't even know how it's possible. I absolutely I thought that was a joke. I'm like, that can't be real. He didn't make one substitution. All 5 starters played the entire second half. I've never seen that before in basketball. With a 40-year-old LeBron, and then you look at it, they're winning the whole game, and then down the stretch, it looked like they just came up tired. Well, yeah, you didn't sub anyone out. I think the Lakers can win tonight in front of their I think they can win tonight in Game 5, and then I think that what you run into is tonight's in LA, right? Tonight's in LA. Yep. They win tonight in LA. All they got to do is win one game, and you put the pressure back on Minnesota. So you win Game 6 in Minnesota, it's a totally different story. I think that the Warriors probably lose tonight, win Game 6 in Golden State. I think the Lakers have a serious chance of coming back in the series. And listen, I think their problem is their defense. I think it's been their problem. That's what I've told people before the playoffs, after the playoffs, during the playoffs. But there's nothing about Minnesota that really blows my mind. I'm like, it's Anthony Edwards and then a bunch of guys. They're just guys.
So I get that portion of it, but I think for me with this Timberwolves team, and I mean, you could put it on the Lakers defense, because I mean, it definitely plays a big part of it because they don't have guys that can move their feet. Minnesota is shooting the leather off the basketball in this series. Julius Randle's shooting threes at a 50% clip. Dante DiVincenzo has been making a ton of threes. Naz Reid's been hitting his threes. Jaden McDaniels has been playing above his head the entire series. And again, I know a lot of that is the Lakers' lack of, perimeter defense, but I also think Timberwolves are ready and they've figured out this Lakers team. You saw in Game 2 when they switched to that pseudo zone, they tried to play Ant with the box and one. It worked, and then they went back, watched film, and they're like, all right, well, this is what we got to do. We're just going to swing it to the opposite corner pretty much every time and probably going to get an open 3. And that's what they've been doing, and Minnesota's been knocking down those shots. So, I mean, I think the Lakers are – obviously, JJ can't go in another game where the entire half he doesn't play anybody from his bench. But I also think he's got to figure out when to play, and I've been saying it all throughout the network on every show I try to comment on. I think Vando and Dalton Connect are the 2 biggest pieces in tonight's game. I think you need Vando to come in there because he's the only guy on that Lakers roster right now that will bring and match the same energy that the Timberwolves have with Ant barking or Jaden barking or Nas barking. Vando's that can match that energy. And then off the bench, you have Dalton Connect, where if Luke is tired, if LeBron is tired, he's probably the only person on that Lakers bench that can get his own shot. So I think those are the 2 that you kind of need to lean on and you need to see sprinkled in there and get some important minutes.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to say the least. Mooney says the Wolves are balling out. LeChoke did his thing in Game 4. Didn't want that last shot. Saw Austin Reeves more open than him. But we all know LeBron, he wasn't hitting that shot anyway. I know Kevin is an absolute LeBron hater. That's what he is. That's who he is. He's the biggest Jordan fan I've ever met in my life. And I get that. I understand that. But I don't think it's on LeBron at all. I think if you watched any of those games, I don't think it's on a 40-year-old LeBron James of why they're not winning. That's the only time in a shot clock error that they did not make a substitution in the second half. Like, do you guys not make anything of that? Is that not like one of the like that's almost a fireable offense? Am I wrong?
See, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, I think that throughout the entire series, I mean, the Lakers bench is, if we're going to call it how it is, the Lakers bench has sucked the entire series so far. So JJ felt like that was his best lineup, and I get it. LeBron's 40. LeBron's probably in better shape than half the team anyway, even at 40. So, I mean, if anybody could do it on that team, you know, you probably throw LeBron in there. But Luka playing the entire half, I think that's another story. But I mean, I can't necessarily fault him. Obviously, it didn't work, but I can't necessarily fault him for saying, hey, this is my best group of guys, and this is a must-win situation. I feel like this gives us the best opportunity to win, so we're rolling with it.
Okay. I mean, Shally, any thoughts on the lineup not switching at all in the whole second half?
I mean, I think it's wild. I mean, to say the least. And again, you're talking about a guy in Luka who, you know, wherever the truth may lie, somewhere, but, you know, he's been thought to not be in the greatest shape of all times. And then you're asking, like you said, you're asking a 40-year-old guy that has a gazillion miles on the tires to go out and play all these minutes. You know, we went over this last year with Thibodeau and the Knicks, you know, running such a short bench and how tired they got down the stretch. I just don't think it's sustainable. I think JJ is going with what he knows and saying, for lack of better terms, if we're going to win, it's got to be with these guys. And he's really not trusting his bench. I think that's a whole different story, like Cottrell said. But I just don't think that's a pace they can keep up or a game plan or a strategy that I think is going to get them out of the series. And if it does, I mean, I can't imagine what you're setting yourself up for next series because they're going to be absolutely gassed. So, you know, I think he's got to find trust in a couple people and at least get these guys breaks and, you know, get them off the court for 2 minutes before the end of quarters so they get the extended, you know, commercial breaks and stuff like that. He's got to at least try to be strategic with it and get Luka and LeBron and some of these guys some breathers so they can have gas in the tank at the end of the game. So if he doesn't change that, I just don't see how it ends well for them. I don't.
Are you not going to be glued to your TV tomorrow night? Tomorrow night, let me just be very clear when I say this. Tomorrow night, you have two very good basketball games. You have the Clippers versus Nuggets, which outside of last night has been the best series in the first round. And then you have the call misheard around the world in Knicks Pistons. I would love to hear. Now, the refs came out afterwards and said that they missed the call and they made a mistake. With that being said, I was fine with the no call. It felt like he was trying to draw contact, but that's not for here nor there. I would understand if they called it too. Like I would have argued, I'm fine either way. Knicks Pistons, the Knicks go home with an opportunity to close that series out, and they whiff. The Pistons go into New York and win the game. We got a game 6 in Detroit. Detroit basketball. I'll ask this. How much of this series have you guys watched? I know that there's a lot of basketball going on. Jalen Brunson is an absolute flop artist, and I love him, but he's an absolute flop artist. It's like it's getting to the point where it's past Harden stages. Like it's every move. It's like he's moving his head. Your thoughts on Knicks Pistons, and then we'll get over to Nuggets Clippers.
So, I mean, for me, this series has been, you talk about the Clippers Nuggets series being the most entertaining. And I think in the East, this has definitely been the most entertaining series. Now, I know it's not entertaining as far as like, a ton of points. This is kind of the old school. This feels like a 90s basketball, 80s basketball series just because of, the physicality. And, this particular series has the most fouls called out of any playoff matchup so far throughout the playoffs. So I think that the way this has been looking, that Pistons team has stayed in these games a lot longer than I thought that they would. I'll say that. I thought ultimately the Knicks' offensive prowess would be too much for them. And, I know obviously Tibbs runs their guys into the dirt. all your guys are gonna play 40+ minutes, things like that. But I thought that Pistons team was really gonna struggle with hitting perimeter shots or down the stretch if these games were close. Having somebody that can match what Jalen Brunson can do, because you can talk about him being a flop artist all you want to, because I agree he does that for, in my opinion, I think the first 36 minutes of the game. When that fourth quarter starts, Jalen Brunson gets in a different mode and he can get to wherever he wants to on the floor and get a bucket. And I do respect that so much about his game. And I didn't think, as good as I think Cade is, and I think he has the potential to be a superstar in this league, I didn't think that Detroit had anybody to match that. And, to my surprise, it hasn't been necessarily one guy to match it. It's been a bunch of guys just hitting timely shots. Malik Beasley's hit some big shots. Tim Hardaway Jr. has hit some big shots. Obviously, Cade has hit some big shots. So the fact they've been doing this, and even after, that missed call, a lot of other teams in that situation can be like, damn, they blew it. Like, we had a chance to get 2-2. Now we got to go to New York. Everybody wants them to win. Like, the calls are going up against us. Like, that could have been it. But this Detroit team didn't do that. They rallied. They won a tight game. And now they're going back to Detroit where, if you win this game, yeah, you get to go back. You have to go back to the Garden, but all the momentum is with you. Detroit is really at that point playing free. New York's playing tight. They're like, oh, we about to blow a 3-1 lead. Like, you got to factor in a whole bunch of things there. So I think Detroit's put themselves in a good spot, and I think they've actually done a great job of overcoming a little bit of adversity there.
Shally.
I agree. I think if you look at Detroit, I think the one thing Detroit's proven is they don't seem like the moment's too big for them, and they don't seem like they're really that scared or worried about New York. I think they're a young team. I think they're playing a little bit above their head. We all kind of earmarked this series as we thought this was going to be a better series than a lot of people thought it was going to be. Mainly because I think we all agree we thought Detroit was a little bit better than people thought. And New York, I don't think New York was as good. We had that discussion about New York not being as good as they were last year. I would love to see them win tomorrow night. I mean, this is to me outside of like Gene said, the Denver and LA series, this has been the best series. It's been the most compelling series. If they can win in Detroit, which I think they will, the weight of the world will feel like it's on the shoulders of the Knicks to go back to Madison Square Garden and play Game 7. Them knowing all the pressures on them and knowing that they're kind of lucky to even be in that situation, because in all honesty, Detroit probably should be in a situation to go home and close it out tomorrow night. And that crowd will be interesting very early, depending on how Detroit starts that game. So I would love to see Game 7 in the Garden. I really would. I think Detroit. I do. I think Detroit forces it. I think they take care of business tomorrow night back home, and I think they just have that. We've talked about it with OKC and Houston and some of these young teams. They just have that. They seem to have that glue that they know they're all playing for each other now, and they're not worried about a whole lot of things or what people are saying. They're just going to go out and ball for each other, and that's a scary thing when you have a good coach. So. If I was a New York fan, I'd be a little uneasy right now.
I want Detroit to win the series. I'm rooting for Detroit. I think that New York versus Boston will be fun though, like watching matchups the way they're set up. Like New York has the wing defenders to be able to compete in a series with OG and Mikal, with Jalen, and I think that'll be fun as far as being able to watch that. But I love the way this Detroit team plays basketball. It's just fun to watch. And look, the New York fans right now are not my best friends. Control, I'm not sure if you've seen the whole conversation, but I'm sure you've seen the clip on TikTok.
Yeah.
I made a comment last week that I thought that Jalen Brunson reminds me of what Isaiah Thomas was before the injury. Like the old Isaiah Thomas on Boston Celtics that was fourth in MVP voting. And people relegated Isaiah Thomas for his first 5 years of his career. Like he was some Joe Schmo role player. Like he was awful. You got to read the comments. It's like people have the most revisionist history of all time. Like I said, the most disrespectful shit ever. I don't think that comment's disrespectful. I think it's accurate as hell. So let me ask you a question. Is that fact or cap?
I can definitely see the parallels for sure. So, I mean, if I had to go a hard one way or the other, I'd say fact.
Okay.
I'd side with you on it.
because their parallels are almost identical. And like, here's the question, right? I'm going to ask you two questions very simply. Can Jalen Brunson ever be the best player on a championship team? Or do you think he'll be the best player on a championship team?
No.
I'll be on my ledge here. I'm gonna say yes.
I think the answer is no.
I
didn't think Isaiah Thomas could be the best player on a championship team. And yeah.
So the reason why I say yes is because I truly feel like that I don't think they would have beat Boston, and I still don't think they're even if they win this series, I don't think they're gonna beat Boston this year. But like I think in a normal East, like Boston, I'm just thinking kind of futuristically here. Boston can't keep that roster together forever. Like Boston has a 2 year run with that roster. I think after
Detroit,
I disagree. Like I think
like
I'm just saying. I think that the way that team set, how they played last year, and I know this isn't the same roster, but how they played last year, a lot of years, if that team is healthy, a lot of years, that's a team that can go to the finals. Now, I'm not saying win the finals, but at that point, you get there. I'm saying if you get there, you give yourself a chance.
I think the answer is no. All right, I don't think. And then the second question would be if Jalen Brunson was a second or third option on a team in the NBA, do you think he would be as effective? And I think the answer is no. Well, the reason I say that is because I think Jalen Brunson needs the offense to be paralleled and ran around him. Like that's the way he could be successful in this league. I don't think he can ever be successful as a second or third option.
I think the only way that he could would be how, and this argument really works against you because we see why he didn't stay. But I think the only way it would work is if you have like a true ball dominant guy like a LeBron or like Luka, like how he played with, to go along with him there. Now, obviously,
works in my favor. Then he played with Luka.
I know.
Works in my favor. Then he played with Luka.
Yeah, I do think opportunity.
The offense was ran around him
for sure. No, for sure. I'm just saying. I think that would be the only situation where it could potentially work. But as a whole, I'd say no.
That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to disrespect the man. He's a Nova. I love Jalen Brunson. I do. I'm a Josh Hart guy. I'm a Dante DiVincenzo guy. Mikal Bridges. I know Dante's no longer running Knicks. Relax, Knicks fans. I get it. But he should be. And so should Isaiah Hartenstein. You should have kept that soft-ass cat over there in Minnesota. Kitty cat. All right. Next topic for discussion. Clippers, Nuggets. I feel like the Nuggets have won 2 of the games outside last night. They dominated last night by the absolute skin of their teeth. And then last night absolutely blew the doors off the Clippers. James Harden looked like playoff James Harden again. By the way, did you guys see the Ben Simmons bunny on Nikola Jokic? Nikola Jokic did the most disrespectful. Yeah, dog. And Ben Simmons shot an airball bunny to the left of the rim. It was amazing. It's so good. It's so good. Just type in Ben Simmons cooks Nikola Jokic and then watch the end of it. But what are your thoughts on Clippers Nuggets? I'm ready to change. I'm going Nuggets. I think the Nuggets wrap it up tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, they're going to win it in 7. The Clippers blew their chance in this game, in this series, the way they blew game 1 and the way they blew game 4.
I was the Nuggets to begin, and I'm still rolling with the Nuggets. I think they got the best player in the series in Nikola Jokic, and somebody put the APB out for Jamal Murray, and he's been found. He had 43 in the last game, and he's looking like that Jamal Murray that just shows up, sporadically in the playoffs. And so if you can get that kind of performance out of him, Russell Westbrook obviously had an efficient game off the bench this past game as well. He had 21 off the bench. When you win games and Nikola Jokic has less than 20 points, you're putting yourself in a great position. Everybody else gets to figure it out at that point. Like those are games the Clippers absolutely can't lose because, like you said, Gene, knowing that there's 2 games left, one of these 2 games, if it goes 7, one of these 2 games, Nicole's going to have 40. He's going to have a 35-point triple-double. So just law of averages there. Whether it goes 6, whether it goes 7, I don't think the Clippers have anything for Nikola Jokic special night. So I'm still rolling with the Nuggets. I think they take care of it in 6. Ultimately to move on.
You want to hear something wild? If you told me before this series started that Zubac would outscore Nikola Jokic in a game by 14 points, and that game the Clippers would lose the game by 12 or 20, whatever it was, like that's embarrassing. I can't. Like Zubac has played great for them. He's kept up with Nikola Jokic this entire series, and the fact that playoff James Harden showed up last night, nothing makes my heart warmer than when playoff James Harden shows up to a basketball game. Because he looked exactly the way he looks when the games matter. Mr. 3. He had more turnovers than field goals made. A little minus 16 on the plus minus.
James Harden is going to James Harden. Doc's going to Doc. I mean, as a Sixers fan, you definitely have to have that bittersweet, do
my victory
right now for sure,
It's my only thing I can root for. I can root for people's failures. That's a Sixers fan's life right now.
Ben Simmons blew a bunny. I mean, it doesn't get much better if you're a Sixers fan.
It was amazing. He was 0 for 1, by the way, 5 minutes. Ben Simmons. Didn't touch rim. Shall we?
No, I mean, I think you guys both hit hit all the important spots here. I agree. I think Denver closes it out tomorrow night. That is the scary version of Denver when you have, like you said, when you guys have Joker not going nuts, but then when you have that other second guy, when you have Murray who's playing like Jamal Murray, that's when that team is really dangerous because then, any given night, the two of them can put up, 60, 70 points by themselves. So, again, I like Denver to come out. I picked Denver from the get-go. We might get another one of those James Harden appearances tomorrow night as well. So it's I think LA's up against it a little bit now. So I will stay with Denver, and I just think they're the better team. And like I said, if they really need that game out of Joker, it's there. There's a 35, 20, and 12 game coming probably. And if that happens and he gets any kind of scoring from the rest of the people on the floor, it'll get ugly for LA.
All right, gentlemen, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on from NBA basketball right now. Ready to move into the NFL draft. Now, we're going to do one of two things, and I'm going to leave it right in your hands right now. Do we want to recap the draft first, then do trivia, and then do Shador? Or do we want to do Shador first, then do trivia, and then do the draft? I'm leaning towards Shador. That's what I want to get into. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I'm EA Sports.
So I'll say this. I feel like the Shador conversation may get a little long. I know we got 20 minutes before trivia, but I'm leaning drafts first because in case it does get long, I don't want to go to trivia and then come back to it, if we're going at it.
I think we give ourselves a hard stop, 20 minutes. 20 minutes is plenty of time to talk about Shador.
You're right.
I agree with Cottrell. I know it's going to go at least. I know it's going to at least go 20 minutes, and I think we should do the draft, give it its due, do trivia, and then come back to it. That's my vote.
All right. I don't think the draft goes 20 minutes. That's my whole point. But all right, let's talk about the NFL. Let's talk about the NFL draft. First of all, I'm going to ask the question. I want you. I'll be clear, right? I did not like the Philadelphia Eagles draft after the second round. Was not a fan.
Yep.
Did not like it. I'll be very clear there. Cottrell, a lot of people are giving the Browns their roses for their draft. I don't agree with them. I think it was an awful draft for the Browns. I hate it in so many different ways. Okay. I'm going to assume that you're somewhere in the middle, really hating what happened on day one, but think the Browns recovered with what they did in the draft. I think the Browns draft was terrible, and I'll explain to you why in a minute. It's not about the players for a minute. It's about what happened and how it transpired. Cottrell, I do want to ask you about the Browns. I think they're the most polarizing team in this entire draft because of what happens with Shador Sanders, because of what happens in the entire draft, them trading back. Give me a letter grade of the way you would grade the Browns draft.
As a whole, I would say As a whole, I would say B plus. And I think if you just go off of the draft this year, I probably would go B minus. I think the fact that you get the Jags first next year boost you up to a B plus. So that's kind of where my mind is at right now. Day one, I wanted Travis Hunter. I've been on record. I think Travis Hunter is going to be a generational player in the NFL. I think he's going to have success on both sides of the football. And so I was upset not getting Travis Hunter. With that said, I personally had Mason Graham as the third best prospect in the entire draft. So as great as I think that Travis is going to be, I can't be too upset about getting Mason Graham, who I think is going to have the potential to be a perennial all-pro caliber player. Now, the second round, I was not a big fan of getting the linebackers early as we did. I thought that he may have been there a little bit later. Or if you wanted him, you could have, moved back, got some more assets if that's kind of what you were thinking there. I think he's the second best off-ball linebacker. So, great athlete too. Love the Quinshawn pick. And then, obviously, not a fan of drafting two quarterbacks, one in the third, one in the fifth. I've never been the biggest Dylan Gabriel fan as a whole. But, if that's your guy, why you take Shedeur? I'm happy they took Shedeur. But if Dylan is your guy and he's on your board and you think you have something with him, even if it's a low risk kind of high reward thing, why even deal with it if that's the case? You could have just took him in the third there and just let that be that. You could have took Shedeur in third and said, hey, this is what we're rolling with. So I do think they potentially lost out on a high impact player because third round picks are important. Like, this isn't the NBA. Third round picks are very important and see a lot of playing time. So just knowing that either your third round pick or your fifth round pick is going to get cut, be on the practice squad, or be a third string, no matter what. Like, those are your only three options with those two players. I'm not a big fan of. So that's why I would give them B minus, but ultimately getting the Jags first round of next year for me bumps it up to a B plus.
So I would give them, with you including the Jaguars first round draft pick, I gave them a C plus. If you don't include it, I give them a D. I think it's a terrible draft. I think you drafted two running backs. You end up getting Dylan Sampson and Quinshawn Judkins. And then you drafted two quarterbacks, and you have three on the roster right now. You signed Joe Flacco. You traded for Kenny Pickett. You have Deshaun Watson on the books. You have five quarterbacks on the roster. You drafted two rookie running backs. Okay, we'll see what Dylan Sampson turns out to be. I think you guys getting Quinshawn Judkins, he'll be your running back of the future. And then a position that I did not value of need for the Browns, when you have David Njoku, you go out and grab a tight end out of Bowling Green. Now, I'm sure Harold Fannon's a great player. I'm sure he's a good guy. I'm sure he's fine. I don't know Harold Fanning, but I know David Njoku is a good tight end in football. I'm sorry, I don't know the Bowling Green tight end. That's something I got to work on. I got to do a little bit more research.
Real recognize real.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
So I'll say this. As far as the Harold Fannin Jr. pick, this was not a deep receiver class. And Kevin Stefanski has always been a fan of a good two tight end system. So that's always been the case. We just have never had a second tight end that actually is good at, being out there and good enough on the field for it. And I thought Harold Fannin was the third best tight end in this class. And so you needed the Browns have a void of weapons. And so I know he's a tight end, but kid's 6'5", 6'6", was one of the nation's leaders in receiving. He gives them a threat that they didn't have on the team. Njoku's great, don't get me wrong, but they have two pass catchers on the entire roster that are worth anything. So I think, if you didn't want to reach on a receiver, Harold Fannin was the next best thing. And the way that Stefanski likes to play a two tight end system, I think it makes sense.
I don't know, bro. I didn't think he was that tall. I thought he was like 6'2", 6'3", but we'll see. I'm not a fan of the pick. I'm not a fan of the Browns draft at all. I think you go generational on Travis Hunter. And if Shedeur falls in your lap, you have Travis Hunter and Shedeur. I think you can walk out of that draft with Travis Hunter and Shedeur and nothing else. And I think it would be in a better draft than what they end up doing wasting a 3rd-round draft pick on Dylan Gabriel, who I don't even know if he makes the roster. Like, I don't.
I'm with you on that.
So it's like you just traded a 5th-rounder to get Kenny Pickett. Like, I guess he's gone. Someone's got to be gone. I don't get it. I don't get it. Callie, I don't want to harp too long on the Browns, but it was a very polarizing draft.
No, I mean, it was, I mean, listen, I thought it was going to be status quo. They were going to take Hunter and go about their business, which I still think would have been the right play. You literally just had Cottrell talk about how they're devoid of weapons. Them taking him at 2 wouldn't have changed them still picking up Judkins or any of those guys later on. So, who I think is going to be a very good running back. I still would have took Travion probably with them both being on the board. He went, I think, 2 picks later. But I don't think they could have went wrong there. Dylan Gabriel at 3 is, was it's interesting. I don't know how else to put it. I thought it was a little early. I was surprised for sure. That being said, he's a guy that if, you read, there's a lot of, I would say there's differing opinions on what he's going to be at the next level. I think if you're looking at with the quarterback room they have, they drafted another tight end who I've seen play in person. I think he's the ability to be. I don't think he's going to be elite at the NFL level, but I think he has the ability to be very good, and he's going to be I think he's perfect for being a complementary piece to Njoku. So, like Cottrell said, running a 2 tight end system, they're going to try to run the ball a lot. They're going to try to play good defense, and with those quarterbacks that do have a chance to step on the field next year between Flacco, Pickett, Gabriel, and Shador, you're going to want 2 tight ends. You're going to want checkdowns. That's the stuff they're going to kind of want to try to do next year, depending on who starts. So I get it. I don't necessarily agree with it. Again, I would have took Hunter. But I do agree with Cottrell's first point. I think Mason Graham is one of the sure things in this draft. To still get him and get an extra number 1 next year for a team that I think, if we're being honest, I don't think they have Super Bowl aspirations this year. So to have 2 number 1s next year and have some of these young guys now in year 2. And I think if you're Stefanski, I think you're somewhere along the line got some vote of confidence that you're going to be around next year, no matter what happens this year, and be able to pick and have say in those draft picks next year. They felt that was the better way to go. We'll see. Travis Hunter goes bonkers and becomes, what some people think he's going to be. I think Mason Graham could be a Hall of Fame defensive tackle, and I don't think people are going to be happy because it's just not going to be a flashy. It's not going to be a flashy pick. He could be great and be Hall of Fame, but if Travis Hunter is scoring 12 touchdowns a year with 5 interceptions on the other side of the ball, that's going to be really hard to justify and walk around.
I'll say this, and Gene, I definitely want. I'm sure you got more to say on it too. It's funny that you say that, Bill, because I've already in my mind, I've already put together the comparison for it. Travis Hunter is the 2025. He's a 2025 Rolls Royce. Mason Graham is a 2025 BMW, like 7 Series BMW. It's great. It's beautiful. I mean, $200,000 car, but Rolls Royce is going to have everything that the BMW has and then some. So, I think although both can be great, one can be a generational talent. And even if Mason is a Hall of Famer, like you said, Bill, you would always still look back at it like that wasn't the right move to make.
So I look at it like you had the chance to draft Deion Sanders and you drafted Christian Wilkins. And at the end of the day, it's the truth. That's a great comparison. Deion Sanders played both sides of the ball, incredible athlete, ball hawking guy, and you had a chance to get that guy, and you drafted Christian Wilkins. And Christian Wilkins is a good player, and Christian Wilkins has always been a good player, but he's steady Eddie. He's reliable. He's gonna line up for you for 55 out of your 63 snaps. He's gonna stop the run. He might get 4 or 5 sacks this season for you. He's nothing special. I don't think he's special. I think special is what you had in Travis Hunter. I love what the Jags went up and got him. I do. Because you basically took 2 draft picks. You got a really elite wide receiver and you got an elite corner. So, but I do want to ask you guys this. Best draft, worst draft, in your opinion, for this past year. And if you want, if I sprung this on you too early, I'll go first if you want me to. You guys choose the order you guys want to go in. But I have my best draft and worst draft right away. But I also
best for sure.
You got what?
I said I got my best already. Worst,
let's just do best. Let's wrap best, and then we'll go worst.
Okay. So for me, best, I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes, I knew it.
I think that what the Cardinals did was absolutely phenomenal. Getting Walter Nolan, who I had as the second best defensive tackle in the class, and I think he's going to be an instant impact guy for you. And then in the second round, getting Will Johnson, who was a guy who I view as, even with Travis Hunter, I view as the best cornerback in the class. Like being able to get that talent, and then third round they get linebacker Cody Simon. I think is going to be a really good piece for him. They also got Jordan Birch, and then followed that up with a pick of Denzel Burke. I think they got 5 guys that can be starters for their team. Now Denzel Burke won't be a starting outside guy, but he's going to be a guy that can play special teams and potentially rotate in there. And be a guy that makes that roster. So, I mean, I think you just going, pick after pick, getting 5 quality starters and guys you can rely on, I think is, a way to knock it out of the park there. Not to mention, I think that their top 2 guys, Walsh Nolan and Will Johnson, have the ability to be future All-Pros.
Shall you?
It's Arizona. I mean, it's me. I mean, I had a feeling he was going to say that because we've already talked about it. They sat there very quietly all night and let the draft come to them. They didn't go out and try to do anything. I would say, depending on how you feel about Walter Nolan, Cottrell's a little bit higher on him than I am. But that being said, it's 16. I think it's great value there. So a lot of people had him going in the top 10. And then Will, again, as long as his knee's okay, the fact that you got him, who is possibly an absolute number 1 shutdown corner in the NFL in the second round for $600,000 a year for a couple years, it is wild. Just those 2 picks alone, I think would have done it for me. But Cottrell went in depth on the other one, so I'm not going to hawk on it too long. But for me, I think Arizona was very quiet, let the draft come to them, and made 3 or 4 really, really, really good picks to start the draft.
All right, so for me, the best draft, I think, was the Baltimore Ravens. And I think when you get Malachi Starks and you pair him with Kyle Hamilton in that secondary, I think that's scary. And I think if you can get past Mike Green's legal trouble, like whatever the issues he's having, he could be the best or second best edge rusher in this class. Like he's got all the talent to be that. And I think they picked a ton of depth. Them getting Emory Jones in the 3rd round, he's a big offensive tackle. He can translate to guard. I think you're going to be good in a lot of different levels. I think Baltimore absolutely destroyed the draft. I want to give a shout out to Carolina. I think Carolina did very well in this draft. They got 2 edge rushers who I think will be impact players. And I love Ted McMillan. I really think Ted McMillan could be a game changer. And then you add Trevor Etienne, who I think will start in this league. So I have 0 issues. I also think Chicago did great. I love the Colston Loveland pick. Listen, I think Colston Loveland fit Chicago better than Tyler Warren would have. I think Tyler Warren's overall the better player, but I think Loveland fits what they're trying to do in Chicago better. So I love those 3 teams. Now for worst draft, I'm going to go first. We'll just wrap it around the other way. Worst draft for me is it's kind of tough, but the part that really just kind of they almost saved it for me at the end. But the worst draft to me is the Miami Dolphins. How you leave that draft with 1 offensive lineman is beyond me. And you take the second best defensive tackle from Michigan in the 1st round. That I thought was a little bit wild, and I get it. I understand. Good player. You leave the draft with 1 offensive lineman. Their offensive line stinks. I can't fathom leaving that draft with 1 offensive lineman. I'll just say 1 though. I have a couple others. I don't want to steal any one of yours, but for me, Miami Dolphins did terrible in this draft.
Bill, it's on you.
I I mean, I think Miami's definitely in there. Again, I think Kenneth Grant's going to be a really good player. Them taking Quinn at the end was I don't know how to explain that. I'm trying to think who sticks out. I feel like Denver had an interesting draft. I think certain things didn't fall their way in some degree, but then they had, I look at like some players that were kind of like heavily linked to them and they didn't take them when they were there. I was shocked they passed on Marion Hampton at the beginning. Letting him fall to San Diego or Los Angeles Chargers, was nuts to me. I'm trying to think just who else sticks out. I feel like the Jets kind of had a weird draft. The one sticking out right now. I'm trying to go through everything through my head real quick.
Well, I got mine while you're thinking. And for me, that's going to go to the San Francisco 49ers. And it's not necessarily about the players they picked. It's about how they did it. I think with the 49ers, you're sitting there at 11 and, they definitely have some needs there. You can talk about offensive line. Ultimately, I mean, defensive line as well. They lost Ward last year. So, I mean, corner could have been a thought as well. But they drafted Mykel Williams. And, Mykel was definitely a first round guy. But at 11, I thought that was way too early for him. Like, I thought Mykel was a guy who would be a 20s pick, potentially even had the opportunity to go to the Eagles at 32. Like, I thought that could have filled a need and made a ton of sense there. So I thought they reached there. Then they doubled back in the first round. Well, and they doubled back the following round and got Alfred Collins out of Texas as a defensive tackle. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a bad player or anything like that, but like, if you look at the San Francisco 49ers, the issue hasn't been the defensive line. Like, that's not what you're worried about here. You lost Hufanga this past year. You lost Greenlaw. I know both of those guys were coming off of injuries and weren't playing, but like, the defensive line had not been the problem on this team. And so to address those at your first two picks, I thought was a little weird to me, especially knowing that in this class, the running back class is very deep. And I'm not saying you go out there and you get one super early, but you wait until round 5, the end of round 5 to get Jordan James out of Oregon, and you don't even know what Christian McCaffrey is going to be. Like, Christian McCaffrey just missed the entire season. He's been injury prone. And in this class full of running backs, you wait until then to address it. You traded away Deebo Samuel. You didn't address the receiver position. Ayuk's coming off of a torn ACL. Like, I just thought the 49ers as a whole, one, they reached, and two, even with those higher up picks, I don't think they addressed positions of need. I thought it was more of a, we like this guy, or we kind of think he fits the scheme, instead of getting value out of those picks. So for me, I did not like what the 49ers did.
See, I like the 49ers idea of drafting a running back late, but like, I want to ask you guys both this question, because you have a little bit better at college than I am. Would you have took Jordan James or Ollie Gordon? Because like, Ollie Gordon went like 5 picks later, and from what I've watched in college football, maybe it's just because he's a great college running back, but he seems to fit that zone blocking scheme. He's a powerful back. I thought that would have been the move. No?
I mean, I think, yes, schematically in the run game, it would have made sense. Ollie Gordon, I'm not going to say he can't catch. Ollie Gordon's not a threat in the receiving game at all. Right. So to have Jordan James, coming out of Oregon, where obviously he caught a ton of passes out the backfield, and then also runs the zone scheme there as well, I can at least kind of understand that portion of it. And Ollie also ran slow at the combine. So I thought that would have, to me at least, and not just style of play, I thought San Francisco would have been a prime Cam Scatterboo destination. Like, the Giants took him. I think that's a great pick for the Giants. And as quiet as it's kept, I actually really like the Giants draft. Not a big Jackson Dart guy, but I can at least understand it and respect it. If they had him listed where they did, and then pairing it with Abdul Carr and then getting Scatterboo as well, I actually really like their draft. But I think Ollie kind of shot himself in the foot, one, going back to college, and then two, not putting up a good 40 time there as well.
All right, we got to get over to you got Chow. You want to say something?
No, I was pretty much going to agree with Cottrell. I think Ollie, for as much momentum as he had coming off of the season last year, I mean, he lost it all and then some this year. I think you could have. I think Oklahoma State underperformed last year, and you probably could have got away with a lot of that if he had a good combine. And then, like Cottrell said, he didn't do that either. So then I feel like a lot of people almost went from this kid was can't miss to was last year kind of like, the one-off kind of crazy peak college season that kids just have sometimes. But it'll be interesting to see how he progresses in the pros. But I think the slow run definitely hurt. And I just think the narrative around him kind of is just almost done a complete 180 since the finish of college football two seasons ago. So it'll be interesting. I mean, he's still a big name. Everybody knows who he is, but I think it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for him.
You guys ready for trivia?
Absolutely.
It's 8 o'clock. I have a trivia question that's going to piss one of you two off. I don't know who it's going to piss off, but it will piss off one of you two. It is not a statistical list. It's a top 10 that is fan opinionated voting. So that's what it is. I love the list. I agree with the list, and I think it's going to be an awesome top 10 that you'll run through quick, and it'll be a lot of fun. However, voted by fans, the top 10 best sports calendar days in America. So you guys all know what these days are. The top 10 best sports calendar days in America. So I will start with Cottrell since he won the last trivia. And what's that?
I said, well, I will I feel like take the low-hanging fruit. Take a Super Bowl Sunday.
That is number 6.
That's number 6?
That is correct.
There's got to be a couple weird ones on here then.
I don't think any are real weird. I just want you to think about like the amount of people watching sports on that day. So it's Super Bowl Sunday, it's only 2 teams playing. So I'll stop. No hints.
I'll go opening day for baseball.
Opening day MLB is on the list, and it is number 10.
Jesus.
All right, so I'll go the Daytona 500 Sunday.
It's not on the list. Strike 1.
That's a good guess, Cottrell. I'll go Master Sunday.
Masters Sunday, number 3.
Jesus.
It's a weird list.
What the hell is going on here? I'll go opening day of March Madness.
Day 1 of March Madness, number 1. Love that. Love that, by the way.
I will go Kentucky Derby Saturday.
Kentucky Derby Saturday, number 8. Great guesses. I love it.
I'm like going through everything in my head here. And I don't know why I'm like blanking here.
I mean, there's some really good ones on here.
Yeah. I'm gonna roll with. Wait, you said opening day baseball, didn't you, Charlie?
Opening day baseball, he said.
Okay. I feel like I got a question to ask here, but I don't know if it can be asked.
Well, ask the question. I'll tell you if I can answer it. 10
All
seconds.
right. So are these like individual days or
no?
Good question.
The answer would be no.
Okay.
Be any day.
Okay. So I'll go games.
Can
Can I go game 7?
Oh,
Is that like World Series Game 7? I don't know what
strike. I have to give you a strike for that one. No,
All right.
not.
I will say. Oh, I'll say wild card weekend for the NFL.
I love that answer. That would be on my top 10 list, but it is not in this top 10.
I got another one here for you. Since just happened here. I go with draft day, like NFL draft day.
I love that day. That is not on the list.
He's called gay.
I love that day.
That's
it's not
crazy.
on the list. I thought you guys would fly through these. Now,
I got a couple in my head here too. I got a couple more in my head.
All right. I mean, I'll go. Whatever. First week of college football, whatever you want to call that.
Week 1, week 0.
Yeah,
that's a strike, my friend.
I'll go with I feel like it's got to be one of the tournaments here. I'll go Wimbledon, like Wimbledon final.
Nope. All right. After Shally guesses, I will give you guys a hint.
We don't have number 2. Like that's the part that's like blowing my mind here.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Are all of these things that happen every year?
Yes, every year.
So there's no
Olympics in there at all.
So there's no Olympics or no events that skip years.
Nope.
Okay.
It's sports calendar days of the American of America. If that helps.
In there, down there at the bottom. So
I will go with. I still think it might be up there. I think Daytona's probably more. I'll go Indy 500.
Strike.
I am sick. I don't need the hint. I feel like I'm now that you're saying it. Days in America, bro. Thanksgiving has to be on here.
Thanksgiving Day football is number 9, and yes, it is.
God damn,
that's a great guess. And I don't want to give it. I can't. I didn't need the hint. I'll wait till Shally goes before I give a hint.
I'll go Christmas Day NBA then.
That's why I didn't want to give it.
It's not on the list.
Let's go. I'm glad I won Thanksgiving.
Here's your hints. There's one day that's a very anticipatory day. There's definitely at least there's a couple.
How many are left?
4 left. There's number 2, number 4, number 5, and number 7. 3 of the 4 left are in the same sport. I'm not saying whether it's the same, league, but it's the same sport. 3 of the 4 left, and a lot of them have to do with. There's one of them that's very anticipated day. We all wait for it, and then the other 3 are big games.
It's your turn, I think.
Is it my turn?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm gonna take a stab at the anticipated one. I'm gonna roll with Bobby Bonilla Day.
No,
that's funny.
That is funny, but no.
Home run derby?
Nope.
I'll go with
right now it's 3-3.
Derby.
4 left.
All right, let's try and tackle these ones that are in the same sport here. I'll go week 1 in the NFL.
That is number 2. That is the most anticipated sports day outside of March Madness.
Let's go.
I love that. NFL week 1, everybody, the football fans watching, their team, they all think that their team can do something that year. Now, the last 3 are all big sporting events. Now, I'm not saying You know, there are two of them. There's multiple games being played. One of them, there's just one. But that if that's a hint, that helps at all.
I think I got another one too.
I mean, is the national championship game on there?
That is correct. Number 5, the national championship. It's the only solo game left.
Wow.
Then I'll go New Year's Day.
I love the guess. That is no, sir.
Wow.
2 left. Number 4 and number 7. 2 different sports.
He said
Number
multiple
4,
games.
Number 7.
Both of the here's a hint. Here's a hint. 4 teams play on both of these dates.
Final Four.
That is correct. The Final Four is one. Now, the last one, Control, you can tie it up, and I am prepared. I do have a tiebreaker ready for you guys.
4 teams play on the other one. Oh, brother. I'm trying to figuring out the sport is the hard part. 4 teams.
I'm going to give you 10 seconds.
All right. I go with the Frozen 4.
That is incorrect. Shally, can you wrap it up?
I have to think it's Championship Sunday.
That is correct. Number 4, Championship Sunday.
Ew, they don't even play on the same day.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
3:30 and 6:10.
Yeah, it's the same thing every year.
I don't know why I'm thinking one plays Saturday, one plays Sunday.
No. Shally takes it down, and we get into. Can't wait to rip Control when he turns the chat back on. NFL Championship Sunday.
Yuck.
College football natty. I like this one, the Rose Bowl. That's on my list.
Yeah.
New Year's.
Rose Bowl, so I watch every year no matter who's playing in it.
Love the guesses. Love the guesses in the chat. Thursday night kickoff. I was so scared someone was going to say Thursday night kickoff. And I was so scared because I didn't know whether I could give NFL Week 1 to Thursday night kickoff. I wouldn't have known whether to say yes or no.
They're different things.
I agree. I was going to say no. World Cup final is not on that because they do not happen every year, Alex.
Nah.
And it's also, you said America, so that's why I didn't even think about World Cup. It's down America.
Alrighty. I'm ready to have this conversation. I'm ready for it. Shedeur Sanders falls in the draft. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I am so shocked at the response from our internal group chat. I'm shocked by it. Like our Wire2Wire chat. I'm shocked by the response. I am. I'm shocked.
Are you talking about the 3 of us or the whole network?
No. The whole network.
I really haven't read any of that.
I would love to hear the thoughts on the Shedeur Sanders thing and his slide in this draft. Because, to me, it was so clear and so evident. And yet the responses I've gotten have been so, Mel Kiper was embarrassing. Embarrassing.
That should have been his last draft, in my opinion.
So bad. But, Cottrell, I think me and you are going to see opposite sides of this. So I'd like to open the floor up to you.
No, thank you. I'll pass. I'll defer. You can open. You always give me the floor first. I'll let you have your time. I love to hear what you have to say. I'll sit back. I'll relax. I'll enjoy.
So some of the things I've seen about Shedeur Sanders this fall have been teams, like the anonymous reports coming out about him, the way he interviewed and like issues with that and the way, like, I think that he's shown you exactly the type of person he was the entire draft lead up. From the combine interview of, well, not combine interview, but from the interview basically talking about, if you don't want to change your team's culture and like, don't draft me. And from Dion saying, I'm going to make sure my guys go where I want them to go. They're not going to go where I want them to go. And I absolutely, and I'm not saying it's 100% factual, but I absolutely believe that there is some truth to this kid coming into these interviews with a chip on his shoulder and an attitude, with the report about the headphones around his neck still playing music, or him wearing so much cologne that they had to take a walk outside this facility, or the argument that he got with Brian Dable about them sending him a playbook and him not being prepared to like talk about it. And like, listen, I went in the room. I don't know what was said, but all I can do is what?
I mean, that one's been validated, but
what do you mean validated?
It's been validated by like 8 people.
Okay. But I'm saying that I don't like to read into anonymous reports. I want to stay that. However, when there's that much smoke and that many teams that pass on a quarterback, and look, I hate seeing this. This is my least favorite. Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel did it, and they were confident and cocky, and they were this. And when Shedeur Sanders does it, it's arrogance. Look, I'm telling you right now, the Cleveland Browns made a mistake on both of those picks. You cannot blame 31 other teams for that. And by the way, who did he get drafted by? He got drafted by the Cleveland Browns. I don't think drafting Shedeur was the mistake. I think the people thinking he was so good that he could walk into any interview, do whatever the hell he wants, say whatever the hell he wants, and he should get drafted. He was entitled to be drafted. I think he interviewed poorly. I think teams were turned off by his attitude, and that's just where it lands. And I don't think he's good enough to have that type of attitude. I don't. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a good prospect. He's not Pat. It's a weak quarterback class, and some people just didn't want to deal with it. And if you have Shedeur Sanders on your roster, you're dealing with Prime in the media all the time. I think his dad screwed him up a ton too. But to act like his fall was anything but his camp's fault, him not hiring an agent, his interviews, and his skills on the football field, is ludicrous. I can't hear that. I cannot hear that a $1 billion organization were like, no, we don't want a really good quarterback because anonymous reports came out about him. Don't want to hear that. Callie, Cottrell.
Bill?
You can go.
All right. So look, for me, I mean, I think this is very simple. I had Shedeur as the best quarterback prospect in this class. I think it's a toss-up. I think it is. I think Shedeur is very scheme dependent. I think if you're going to place Cam Ward on I think Cam Ward had the opportunity to play anywhere and be a good quarterback. I think Shedeur is very scheme dependent. But I think if you place Shedeur in the right scheme and you place Cam in his perfect scheme, I think Shedeur is the better prospect. Now, with that said, I 100% can understand why teams didn't want to draft Shedeur in terms of, one, what he brings to your organization, like the eyes that he brings to your organization, things that he says. I mean, obviously, just Prime and the whole legendary mantra around him. Like, if you don't want that around your organization, I can 100% understand that. If you say he doesn't have a great arm, he's not a great athlete, like, I can also understand that. But for him to fall to the 5th round, I just thought was absolutely crazy to begin with. And I think that there's a couple things that we're not addressing. So, like, one of the things is, I think if you tell me that teams don't want to deal with Shedeur being a They don't want to deal with the circus that comes around Shador if they view him as a backup quarterback or view him as a quarterback that can't play for, he can't play this upcoming year or can't play for 2 or 3 years. Like, I can understand that. And once you get to the end of the second and then third and fourth round, that's kind of what you have there. Like, if you're drafting a quarterback in that round, like anytime after the middle half of the second round, chances are that means you view them as a backup for now with the potential to be a starter. So I can understand teams not wanting to have, Shador there. Like, I think even with a team like the Rams, like, he's aging, like Stafford is obviously aging, but you don't want to necessarily have that around them. So, like, I think that did put Shador in this weird spot where a lot of teams weren't going to draft him. However, with that said, though, when you talk about teams that have these that ultimately needed quarterbacks that don't have a true bona fide starting quarterback at this time, if Shador goes into the interview that you're alluding to at the combine and he says, you know what, at the end of the day, don't draft me if you're not looking. What he said was, don't draft me if you're not looking to win and change your culture. Because like that's what I'm going to do. And he also said, you can think that, like, you think I care what people say about me? Like, you know who my dad is? He said that in response to, like, I don't care what critics I have. I don't care what people say that I can't do. I know what I can do, and I know what I bring to organizations. So looking at teams that need a quarterback, and this is just a little game I wanted to play with you guys here. You tell me, good or bad, that those are your only two answers, good or bad, in terms of culture.
You just have to correct your statement. If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the culture, don't get me. That's the exact quote. So don't say winning or changing winning.
Oh, I said culture. I said culture for sure.
You did say culture. You said winning. He said if you're not trying to change the franchise or the culture. I'm just saying, you want to turn the quote? I'm going to give the right quote.
Let's do this. Let's go ahead and do this. Put it up here.
There you go.
He's a franchise or the culture don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over. And I've done it over and over and over. So it should be no question why NFL franchise should pick me. You think I'm worried about what critics say or what people got to say? You know who my dad is? They hated on him too. So it's like it's almost normal. Without people hating, it's not normal for us. So we like diversity. We like everything that comes with the name. That's why we are who we are. If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the culture, don't give.
We got that out the way there.
Do you think that was a plus or a minus interview?
I don't think it's an anything interview. I think it is a par. It's a par interview.
Okay. I think he took a bogey on that one. Well, that's fine.
What'd you say?
I think he took a bogey on that one, but that's fine.
All right, but again, just little exercise here. Teams that need a quarterback, culture edition.
Yep.
Good or bad? New York Giants.
Bad.
Bill, you agree?
Bad.
Cleveland Browns.
Bad.
Bad.
Las Vegas Raiders. I know they got Geno, but Las Vegas Raiders without AP. Without AP.
Good. You have Pete Carroll there. You had AP last year. I think their culture's fine. Max Crosby there. I don't think they had the talent.
You've had three coaches in 3 years. I don't think the culture's good, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, listen, I think we know what it's going to be with Pete Carroll now, but I mean, if we're status quoing it what it was, I mean, 3 coaches in 3 years is not ideal. I mean, I think you'd have to say bad.
Okay, that's organization is bad. That's fine.
Fair, and that's fair too. That's fair too.
But I don't think
by bringing in Pete Carroll though, are you not changing the culture? Is that what you're trying to do?
Absolutely.
What you're trying to do?
That's fair.
New Orleans Saints, good or bad?
Awful.
I mean, it used to be really good. I would say it's bad now.
All right. So and then I have one more, which is I know we're gonna agree on. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Good.
So all teams, and I didn't even add in the New York Jets, who I know they got Justin Fields, but I mean, if Justin Fields has a bad year,
they got Geno Smith. They paid him. They weren't drafting a quarterback in the first round.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, like, as a whole, though, I didn't even throw in the Jets, but I know that's a no-brainer bad culture. So of all these teams that need a quarterback, I mean, what, 6 out of the 7 have bad cultures? And I get it, the Steelers have good culture. I also think winning is a part of that. You need to change something. The Steelers have been staying status quo since Ben Roethlisberger's retired. They bring in these quarterbacks. They try to do the same exact thing. And you could talk about Mike Tomlin coaching above his head, making the playoffs with rosters that shouldn't be there. They need to change. Something needs to change in there for the Steelers to get back to what we're used to. So in one way or another, all these teams that need quarterback need some sort of change within culture there. And if Shedeur truly believes that in himself and he has that confidence, like, hey, I went to Jackson State. Jackson State was nothing before me. We won SWAC titles, and, I got 11-win seasons there. Colorado was a 1-win football team. I go there, obviously the first season wasn't great, but they win 4 games. I mean, you quadruple the win total. You get a ton of eyes on you. Then the following year, you get bowl eligible. You win 9 football games, and outside of a loss to Kansas, you would have been in a position to potentially make the college football playoff. So he's saying, everywhere I go, I win. And things change around me. And this culture is one thing. Like, I'm not saying Colorado had the greatest culture. I'm not saying Jackson State had the greatest culture. Winning follows Shedeur Sanders. So if he has that confidence talking about, I'm going to come in and change the culture, I think winning is a part of that culture.
I'm telling you right now, and I know after talking to 3 different personnel people in the NFL this weekend, they didn't have him on their board. They took him off. They took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. I don't want this entitled person on our team, and I don't blame them. Quote, Boomer Esiason.
Shedeur Sanders is not a quarterback that is for everybody. Just like how
you're right. And if only 6 or 7 teams need a quarterback, and he's not for everybody, that really severely limits. And by the way, just so we're clear, he's not for the Browns either, because they drafted Dylan Gabriel over him. So, don't lie to yourself and say this great quarter. You know why they drafted Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round? Because this kid's talent's way too good for us to just be sitting on him, and we're still going to draft him in the 5th round, even though we believe that Dylan Gabriel is better for our culture, and we made a decision that Dylan Gabriel would be a better fit for the Cleveland Browns than Shedeur Sanders. That's what it says, drafting him in the 3rd round. 32 teams all said no to this kid. 32 teams. I think that speaks volumes to what he did in that interview. And for the people to go, well, these people better interview well, or they better play better than him the way they interview. And that's what Mo said. And I love Mo, and I get where Mo's concept is. But here's the point, right? Just because you're talented doesn't mean you get to go into these interviews and act like a jerk off when you're interviewing for a job. Just doesn't. It's a $1 billion corporation, and you're asking these teams to give you the keys to the franchise. I wouldn't give it to Shedeur Sanders. I wouldn't. I don't have faith in him to walk in there. By the way, you know what's one of the most important qualities of leadership is? Humility. Shedeur Sanders lacks humility. Google.
What I'm saying is at the end of the day, you could talk about this interview process all you want to, and I mean, I think it does matter to an extent because franchises do have to spend the money on them. But when you look at all of these reports and just following the story from any sort of national level, they're saying that at the NFL level, it doesn't care what kind of attitude you have if the talent is there. My thing is, if that's the case, then why are we talking about what happened in the interview process and things like that? If you're saying that Shedeur doesn't have that talent, I mean, hey, that's your prerogative. I think that's perfectly fine. I think, people are giving ESPN a lot of blame and talking about Mel Kiper, and I agree. I don't like how he went about his rants, about Shedeur and taking time when other players were getting drafted to talk about Shedeur and things like that. But everywhere across the board, outside of these anonymous, scouts, had a 1st or a 2nd round grade on Shedeur Sanders. Go anywhere you look, they had a 1st or a 2nd round grade on him. So it's just a little rich. It's just a little rich for me to say that he doesn't have the talent to match what he's doing, and also it's definitely rich to say that his talent doesn't match what what he's saying and things like that, while
They're
also saying that if he's good enough, teams are going to draft him anyway. Like those two are literally opposites of each other.
I don't see it that way. I think they're saying you have a bad interview, but your talent and your projections are undeniable as a quarterback for these franchises that for a position that has been, I mean, it's the most important position in all professional sports. That becomes the exception then. Then it becomes the conversation, you know, how do we deal with this kid? And, you know, what do we have to do to make him a little bit better off the field? But he's so damn good, we can't pass on him. I think everybody agreeing across the board is saying he's not that kid.
So I have a first-round grade on him.
Find me a scout. Find me published reports. Here's the other thing that the misconception is. You've heard ESPN and everybody else for months say he's a first-round pick. He's a top 10.
Analyst,
okay, NFL.com. That's people who write. That's no different than Mel Kiper for ESPN.
Correct.
Same thing. Okay. Go find me the draft boards for actual people who work for the teams that are scouts, that are analysts that
you
they do exist.
No, they don't. You don't see those because all those teams are as confidential. So everybody else has been evaluating the draft for the last 70 years that the NFL draft has been going on. They put a first-round grade on him or a second-round grade on him.
I'm talking about Shedeur. Exactly. It's confidential. No team came out publicly and said, we had a first-round grade on that kid and didn't take him. For this reason, that reason. Exactly. It's all kept internal. Teams have come out flat out, like Gene said. Boomer put his name to it. There are teams that flat out came out and said, take the kid off the board. We're not taking him.
Which I understand.
Okay. So now you go from there. Now you look at, and for the record, I said from the get-go, I wouldn't take him in the first round.
Which is fine.
I think 5 is nuts, but I think he projects to be a bottom third starter or a backup quarterback in the NFL. That's what I think he is. I don't think the world of Cam Ward. I wouldn't take Cam Ward number 1. We did our mock draft. I took Travis Hunter. I wouldn't take Cam Ward either. I think it's a really, really weak quarterback class. But that being said, you look at the other factors. You brought up Mike Tomlin. I think he's a great example. Mike Tomlin, you know, all these people want to yell race and yell all this other stuff. Mike Tomlin's probably the most respected black person in the NFL in a non-front office position. We would all agree with that, or close to it. Okay, that guy just went out and got DK Metcalf, and he was so turned off, or he was so unimpressed, or didn't think that Shedeur's the guy that he's now going to ride into the season with Mason Rudolph as QB1. That's another example. And if there's and we all agree the Steelers culture is as legit as it gets. So if there's a guy that's going to be able to take Shedeur and humble him and mold him into, you know, a Steeler type guy and make it, and we thought he could be a great quarterback, Pittsburgh would have took him. Nope, they passed on him 5 times too. Wanted nothing to do with him.
And Tom Brady alluded to this in the comments that he said that by being in September, decisions will be made. Some guys will stick and some guys will fall away. We won't know exactly who until the demands of playing this game at the highest level reveal the aspects of their character that are most important to building a winning team: determination, competitiveness, resilience, perseverance, humility, integrity, and intelligence. That's what he said when he was asked about if he would have talked to the Raiders about drafting Shedeur Sanders or going out and getting him. He mentioned culture, and he alluded to culture in the beginning of the sentence. He said, in the exact quote, I don't want to screw it up. Lakers co-owner Tom Brady alluded to the need to foster a united culture at Allegiant Stadium in a telling remark after the franchise overlooked Shedeur Sanders in the 2025 draft. The reports that Michael Strahan made a comment about it. He said he sat there and watched the draft with Tom Brady, and this is another good comment. Is he going to be coachable by anybody that's not his dad? I don't know. And I think the team's investing a top pick in a kid that has shown you. Even the comment about the Rolls Royce. Do you remember Tom Brady's response? It was a couple years ago. I get it. Do you remember Tom Brady's response about Shedeur Sanders calling himself a Rolls Royce? Do you guys remember that?
No.
2023, Shedeur Sanders compared himself to a Rolls Royce. Tom Brady said, you should spend a little bit less time in the car and a little bit more time in the film room. That's exactly what he said about when Shedeur Sanders referred to himself as a Rolls Royce. And then he ended up going on to work with them, which is great. And I love that Tom had a relationship with Prime and with Shedeur, but didn't like him enough to tell the Raiders to go out and get him. And I think that speaks volumes. The Steelers needed a quarterback. They had an opportunity to pick him not once, not twice, but 3 times. They chose not to. And that organization has shown you culture is important. I think it tells you something that 32 teams passed on him. I think it's talent there.
31 teams passed on a lot of people. I mean, teams passed on Patrick Mahomes. 31 teams passed on Lamar Jackson. So
31 teams did not pass on Patrick Mahomes. He got picked.
I didn't say 31 teams. I said teams passed on Patrick Mahomes. 31 teams passed on Lamar Jackson. My point being, though, like with the Steelers, for example, like I do think the Steelers would have been a good fit for him. And you can talk about Mike Tomlin and the culture and things like that. And they just went out and got DK Metcalf. My response to that would be, what if internally we're looking at the Steelers? I mean, every year at this point, we've been having conversations, you know, is it time to move off of Mike Tomlin? What happens this year if you take Shedeur Sanders and, you know, he's there for 1 year and he's with Mike Tomlin and, you know, even if things go well, they make the playoffs. I mean, typical Steelers thing, they make the playoffs, lose in the first round, but the Steelers are like, all right, well, we're moving off Mike Tomlin. Then you're stuck with Shedeur Sanders, who is going to, if he was your starter this upcoming season, he's probably going to be your starter for the next season. Then you're handcuffing this quarterback to a coach that you don't necessarily know if it's going to be a fit with, that may not have the same kind of impact on guys in the locker room with a guy like Mike Tomlin. So I can at least understand why the Steelers didn't take him. Like if Mike Tomlin went out and came out and said that, hey, we didn't feel like, you know, Shedeur was going to be a, you know, good fit for us because of culture or because of, you know, his confidence and things like that. That's not how we do things. Then I think that would be a completely different thing. But knowing that they have George Pickens on the roster, who is never afraid to speak his mind to the media, you know, for better or worse for the team, DK Metcalf, who is definitely a ticking time bomb when it comes to everything. I don't think it's crazy to say that the Steelers are looking at it like, well, I mean, we could take Shedeur. He could be our starter here, but if we don't win a playoff game, no matter what, we're probably moving on from Mike Tomlin. Or them saying, hey, in the 6th round, we'll get our quarterback. Will Howard's going to have an opportunity to win a job. Obviously, Mason's going to be our starter, but we still get a rookie quarterback that has a little bit of upside. We'll see what happens there and really just go from there. So, like, I think the Steelers being the one team that has a good culture and didn't take him, I think it definitely could be, you know, we view this as this guy was not good enough, or we didn't think that his attitude would change to fit what we want to do here in the building. But I also think the Steelers are in this weird purgatory where after this year, as respected as Mike Tomlin is and as accomplished as he is, he might not even be the coach of that team next year.
I mean, I'm not saying anything you just said is wrong or even far-fetched for that, you know, but at the same time, I don't think any of that factored in. I think they were just not going to take him. You know, I look at it this way. I mean, Gene brought up a good point, and it's been floating around my head the whole time. Brian Dable, for lack of a better term, had to get this draft right, and they have to figure that team out, or he's going to be out of a job. You're responsible for the way you conduct yourself, and I don't care. I'll be honest with you. The quotes at the combine don't bother me that much. That to me is a kid who truly believes in himself and thinks he is capable of his ability. And if he shows up, he's kind of saying that he wants to be a winner and he wants the culture to change. Now, I don't know if he is going to be the biggest influencer of that or a bigger influencer of it as he thinks he's going to be. But that being said, those quotes don't bother me. They don't. And I'm sure growing up as a kid, being on the internet and every other thing or, you know, listening to the stuff that has been said about your dad, I don't have a problem with that part of it either, because that's what the kid lived through. He just did. That's just the facts of it. Showing up to the team, picking number 3, who is desperate for a quarterback, that tried to trade up to 1 to draft Cam Ward, sitting there at number 3, if you walk in there and impress them knowing you probably get a shot at that pick then, and they don't go Abdul Carter, and you show up, you know, I think it's kind of funny that the Giants started taking blowback, and the next day on Twitter, they released all the videos of all the conversations with Brian Dable and the staff with all the quarterbacks from last year, with Jaden Daniel, with J.J. McCarthy, with Caleb, and all those guys. And they're all sitting there. It's back and forth, and all 4 of them are 100% prepared. Brian Dable's like, let's switch this, move the X receiver to here. Let's do this. What's that audible called? They all know every goddamn answer to it. You want to be a leader. You want to be a draft pick. You want somebody, of course, of the Giants. That's a multi-billion-dollar franchise. And you want somebody to not only give you the keys to that franchise, to be the face of that franchise in the biggest sports market in the country. But on top of that, if you're Brian Dable, you're putting your job on the line at that point to draft you number 3, and you show up unprepared and then get combative with him in the interview when you get stuff wrong or you don't know what he's saying, and you're shocked that that team doesn't draft you, that loses it for me. That's immaturity. That's having your head up your ass. Like that is you thinking you're better than you are. And then you saw it. Just like I think once Jay Glazier and McShay and all those guys verified that report, it all came from the same guy within the Giants front office. I think a lot of other teams that were like, you know what? Either they had similar experiences with him. He already had a short, small pool to be drafted by anyway. Everybody else was like, I'm good. Because I think a lot of other teams didn't have a first-round grade on him anyway.
Last thing I'll say here, Gene. I know you got something to say, and I know we got to move here. We're getting to the end of it here. Last thing I'll say though, Bill, you made up a point, and this is the one thing that I wanted to talk about. So last year, the Giants brought in all those quarterbacks. You said they did everything right, and they were great. They knew exactly what they were supposed to do. Well, none of those quarterbacks got drafted by the Giants. The Giants instead drafted Malik Neighbors, who showed you on Hard Knocks that he had no interest in being a New York Giant, and for all intents and purposes was an asshole during his interview. I'm not saying he was deliberately an asshole to, the guys there, but it didn't seem like a professional interview, and the Giants had no problem with that. So, I mean, is it crazy to say Shedeur saw that and was like, all right, well, if I believe in something and Dable believes in something, I think I'm right. Maybe he wants me to fight for this. Because I saw last year it didn't matter with Neighbors. And all the quarterbacks did the right thing. They said all the right things, and they didn't take any of them.
That's a very good point, Control. The last thing I'll bring up is the Jonathan Jones CBS report where he said that Shedeur purposely tanked interviews. At some of those combine meetings with certain teams, Shedeur Sanders didn't really want to go to. I was told he more or less sandbagged in those interviews. I don't know if he didn't take them seriously or what it was, but he did not give his all in some of those interviews. It rubbed teams the wrong way. A year ago, similar comments were echoed by his father, Deion Sanders. I know where I want them to go. There's certain cities where it ain't going to happen. It's going to be an Eli Manning situation, and we ain't doing that. Sanders mainly had a few major suitors coming into the draft. The Giants, Saints, Steelers, and Raiders, all the teams who passed on Sanders in the first round, then the second, then the third, then the fourth.
And the difference between Sanders and Neighbors is, like we said, if you're undeniable, they'll put up with certain things over certain things. Again, if they had him borderline and he comes in there, like Gene said, has music playing as the head coach is trying to talk to him, doesn't prepare, didn't look at the playbook, doesn't know the play, is arguing with the coach, that's different than Malik Neighbors showing up and kind of being underwhelming and not being disrespectful, but not being super excited. And again, I don't think you would look at their grades and say they're on par as players. They're not. Malik Neighbors, if he didn't go, what they took him, 5? If they don't take him 5, somebody's probably taking him 6. Shedeur never had. That's what I'm saying. It's totally different because all this stuff's coming out now, and all these teams are saying we never had a first round grade on Shedeur Sanders.
Well, and teams aren't saying that. That's what these.
Well, there's a lot of people.
Are saying.
They're not anonymous when they don't want to attach their name to it because they don't want to get attached in the circus. But Mel Kiper is not the guy who speaks for the for all the NFL front offices saying, "Oh, these guys are all crazy. They don't know what they're doing." He fucking mentioned Jimmy Clausen as the next best prospect. If he's not a good quarterback in the NFL, I don't know what I'm doing. Jimmy Clausen couldn't end up throwing his way out of a wet paper bag and was out of the NFL in 3 years. Correct. Didn't go in the first round. Correct, but they didn't. My point is that's your expert Mel Kiper. So again, the teams all disagreed with him. They took him in the second round, and he still sucked. He had Patrick Mahomes, the fifth best quarterback in that draft. Look at that now. But then has the audacity to say that the NFL hasn't been grading quarterbacks correctly for the last 50 years. They don't know what they're doing.
Pat also went behind Mitch Trubisky and Deshaun Watson. So I mean, teams had him ranked as third and instead of fifth. So I mean, NFL also misses. Pat didn't go number one. 2 quarterbacks went before him. I
get it, man. I mean, but you're I'm just saying there's so much. There was this super duper crazy hype train that ESPN had with Shedeur Sanders. That's why every goddamn Colorado game was on for the last 2 years. He's talking about this, and that, this. You're 13-12. Everybody's bringing up Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield won a national championship and a Heisman. They are not even close to the same college player when they came out. They're not even close. They're not even the same planet as what Baker Mayfield's debatably a top 20 college player of all time. Shedeur Sanders isn't even in that goddamn discussion. Not even close. So they're not the same. They're different.
All right, we got to move. Do want to let's get our Kentucky Derby picks on record, and then I want to have another fun conversation to wrap it up before we get into You Got to Be Kidding Me. I have my Kentucky Derby superfecta. So I will. Shad, do you want to preview the Kentucky Derby?
Well, it's Run for the Roses, Churchill down Saturday. Weather looking a little iffy, a little scary because problem with this field is a lot of these horses have not run in the rain. So if it's a sloppy track or it's wet, I will tell you just start flipping coins because I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen if it's a bad track. If it's a dry track, listen, it's still the Derby. It's still unpredictable. You're gonna have horses hit the board that people will tell you suck. And more often than not, the best horse doesn't win the Derby because as we sit here right now, there's going to be 20 horses at the gate Saturday. I think there's one horse in the race that is head and shoulders above everybody else, but doesn't mean he's going to win and doesn't mean he's going to get a good trip. We just talked about it. This is one of those days on the calendar that I know so many people that don't know a damn thing about horse racing. And they go to Kentucky Derby parties every year. It's a big deal. It's a fun time. I've said it before. I've been to one. If you're a sports fan, put it on your list. It's actually not that hard to go to. It's not that expensive. It should be on your bucket list. If you're there in person, it is so much better than what you can see on TV. It's just a fun, really fun, kick-ass day. And to be there when they're running and just feel all the energy and have that like high if you bet and your horse wins, it's nuts. So, but post time 6:57, they're never on time. They'll probably start around 7:05. It's the best 3-year-olds in the country. So that's where we're at.
All right, so let's give our picks out. I have. It's so funny you say that. I'll start. That's who my pick is to win it. I have Sandman 6-1. Sandman is my pick. My superfecta is Sandman, Tistastic, followed by Journalism and Sovereignty. That's my 4.
So it's actually funny. It's funny you say that because I also have Sandman winning. Not really because of the horse, but seeing they had Jose Ortiz is going to be on Sandman, who's arguably being the best jockey in the race there on a good
top
horse.
Top 5 all time.
I was like, yeah, that's a good mix there. So that's why I'm rolling with Sandman. But then I was looking at these other odds here to see if I could put together a superfecta. But I think Journalism is going to obviously be up there. And then there was one more that Publisher is the other one. 20-1. Look out for. I think he might find himself in the top 4.
Shall we?
All right. I'm gonna go. Let me see if I keep my streak going here. I'm gonna go chalk here. I'm gonna go journalism to win. I think he's the fastest horse. I mean, by every speed metric, he is the fastest horse in this race by far. He's starting from the number 8 gate, 9 previous winners from the Derby. It's tied for the most ever. I think if he doesn't get sandwiched inside or get knocked around, he is a horse that does no problem kind of stalking towards the front and then come down the stretch. He'll just go. I think if he gets a good run, I think he wins. I think it's that simple. So I'm going to go journalism. I got Chunk of Gold, just a gut feeling there. Ever since they switched that horse, his running style, he's got first in 2 seconds. I think he hits the board. I like Rodriguez in the 4-hole. What was my 4th horse? I forget. I like Burnham Square to finish 4th. That's my super.
All righty. Now, sorry, I didn't mean to rush through that, but I wanted to get into this conversation. You see it happening everywhere. You see this conversation going on all across social media. It is the most talked about conversation around the world.
It really is. It's just
100 men, 1 silverback gorilla. Now we're going to set the stage. There's no weapons. It's 100 average men. So it's basically going to be a mixture. The random men, 100. And it's going to be in a coliseum. So there's not like a forest where the gorilla can jump and swing on things. I would love to debate. So I will go last and I will choose my fighting analogy. Cottrell, would you take the 100 men? Or would you take the 1 silverback gorilla?
I am taking the men. I've thought about this, and I've thought about this, and I thought about this. If I get to hand pick my 100 men, I know we're not in this scenario, but if I did get to hand pick my 100 guys, there is not a doubt in my mind that they are taking down that gorilla without picking it. Even with just 100 random men, I still think they can do it. I think the key is going in, you have to have everybody understand their role. All right. So out the gate, people are going to die. I mean, there's no way around that. 100 men aren't surviving. So
people are going to die.
People are going to die. So you got to have your guys. I'm not saying that maybe it's the short stick guys. You know, everybody pulls a straw or whatever, and the shortest one, you know, hey, you're on the chopping block there. But you got to keep the gorilla occupied with some people. So we're going to have some casualties. But on the flip side of that, I think you can still have 30 guys, I say waves of 15 that just attack this gorilla's either leg, one at a time. I think the key is you have to break it down because you're not going to just kill it right away. You got to break it down, limit the mobility. And after you can limit the mobility, that's when you can strike and get the more dangerous shots in because it's just going to be swinging around. And, you know, if it's not able to really move, then, you know, I think that's when you have your advantage there and you can start to get your deadly strikes in. So I think you have a ton of casualties, but I'm rolling with the men. I think if there's only one person that can come out alive in that or one being that can come out alive in that, it's going to be a man.
All right. So, Charlie, would you like me to argue against that or would you like to argue against that? Or if not, I can argue either side.
I'm team silverback here. I like Cottrell. Cottrell went like UFC breakdown now. He's like, gotta hit the leg kicks. You gotta like start to ability. And just me sitting here picturing like watching something like 120-pound dude try to leg kick this 500-pound gorilla.
That's why you got 15 more people with you doing the exact same thing.
It's so funny to me. All right, listen. I will say this: the only way for me that this goes down. Again, to Cottrell's point, I think if you're hand picking guys, like you can put like 100 Ray Lewises and John Jones in there, then I think they figure it out. But for me, this kind of reminds me of the movie Gladiator. You know, they're about to come out of the gate the first time, and there's a guy there. He just starts pissing down his leg, and you're gonna have this big ass gorilla just out there banging, and then they open the gate, and the dude takes one step out, gets hit in the face with that flying chain spike ball thing. He's dead already. I think you're going to lose people right off the bat. There's going to be carnage. I also think as soon as that first wave goes after him and he starts ripping limbs off, I think you're going to have probably 10 or 20 people that say, nope, I'm out. They're going to try to find a way out. They're going to start climbing up the walls of the Coliseum. They're going to freeze. They're not going to do it. Your only hope is to tire them out. Their bone structure, their strength, their density. You can sit there and leg kick him and punch him as much as you want. He's not going to care. He has the strength. If he hits a human in the face with one punch, he can kill you. I think there's too many easy victories for the Silverback. I just think he's just way too athletically gifted, way too strong. He's going to do things that you're not going to expect. And again, I think the mental warfare of what's going to happen in that Coliseum as well is going to make some guys just say no mas. Watch the guy next to you come out and just watch him, rip his head off or tear his arm off and throw it somewhere. They're just going to say this isn't for me and I shouldn't be here. And I think you're going to find people just trying to wait to tap out. So I'm going with the gorilla. Other than I know Gene's going to come in here with the two weaknesses on him. I just don't think anybody gets close enough to do it. I
could argue. I told you I could argue either side. So what I'm going to do is, since both of you guys went on each side of the equation, I'm going to let the next comment dictate what side you'd like me to argue for. So John, Damian, whoever's in the chat, do you want me to argue for the gorilla or do you want me to argue for the 100 men? Because I can argue either side. I don't care which direction they want me to go. I will go that direction. Because there's got to be something that's said, right? There has to be something that's said beforehand. I just want to see what comes through because I want to make my strong pitch to.
And Bill, while we're waiting on that comment to come in, I would say this too. If you're in the Coliseum and these guys that they know they're going to die regardless, there is no running away, there is no climbing.
Hey, don't you had your time? This is my moment. 100 men.
I was waiting for the comments. That's
100 men popped up. Kyle popped it up. Man, humor me. Okay, so
that means Augie's on my side.
If you're in the Coliseum, right? And you're in this situation, the 100 men have to have a conversation. Like, we're all dying if we don't kill this gorilla. Like, you can't walk into that and say that they're running around. Like, that they can leave this situation. They can't leave. It's 100 men. A man gets out or a gorilla gets out. Now, there are two ways that you can puncture a gorilla. That's it, two. Like, your hands, like hand-to-hand combat, are not going to puncture a gorilla's skin. It just can't happen. If you look it up, you just can't puncture a gorilla's skin with human hands. It's just not going to happen. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to gouge the eyes or the anus. And I don't care how ridiculous that sounds. If you bombard the gorilla and they're like, the strength of 8 men, well, this is 100 men, right? If you bombard the gorilla and you run over the gorilla and 100 people all attack the gorilla, stampede, not 15 each, full stampede over the gorilla. And you have 25 men hold them down on one side and 25 men hold them down on the other side. And then you have the other 50 that are absolutely rummaging the gorilla's eyes. You have to eye gouge this gorilla. You have to rip his eyes out. And when you rip his eyes out, you have a point of entry. You have a point of entry. There are the two ways that you can do it. And if we're having a conversation, I'm going to coach the team. I'm coaching team 100 men. Guys, if we don't all attack, we're all dead. But if we all attack together, there's no way this gorilla can beat us. So we have to all attack at once. And we all have to go. And listen, he's going to get a couple of us. And I'm sorry. It's a couple of us or all of us.
Casualties, baby. Casualties.
It's going to happen.
You can bum rush that thing. And here's two. That's going to go one of two ways. Either he's going to run away and just counter group somewhere else and regroup and get ready to go. Or B, he's just going to start running towards the group of men. And then when you think you have 100 guys going to hold him down, he's going to be stomping on them like a freaking horse. You're going to lose 10 or 20 right there off the bat. And we could say whatever we want. Being in that arena and watching people start to die, you could be like, oh, we're all in this together. Wrong. As soon as people start seeing blood and organs being ripped out, people start changing their tune real quick. You tell me we can't make a human ladder, and there aren't going to be some people that make it up into the stands. You're not finishing with a full deck, bud. There's no way. There's no way.
I'm not
Gorilla
going.
is going to.
Tiny, I am not going first. I'm telling you right now.
He's coaching. Gene said he's coaching.
Yeah, Gene's going to sit up in the ivory tower and make moves. Yeah, guys, you got to go harder there.
I'm number 50. I'm in the middle of the pack.
It'll be like Russell Crowe throwing the sword up. It'll be throwing arms up at you. Say, send me another one.
I just want to give a synopsis for the people. Gene said you go over to this ape, you gouge his eyes out, and then you quite literally put your foot in its ass, and you just keep digging until he gives up. Yep. You just keep, and then when the person that person dies, you gotta go to the next person. You gotta just
does that sound logical?
You gotta
sound logical to
gorilla
anybody?
That is the two ways
to get it down.
To puncture a silverback gorilla. You gotta eye gouge and you gotta go for the anus.
That'll be Gene. That'll be Gene's post massacre interview. What happened? Well, scooping out the gorilla's ass strategy didn't work, so we're gonna regroup with the next 100 and see what happens.
He just shit on me, then ripped off my best friend's head.
Kill or be killed. If it's kill or be killed, and they don't not let you out of the stadium, either you're dead or the gorilla's dead. The men win.
That gorilla is gonna sit there and ask you if you're not entertained after he kills everybody. He might start climbing up and run after your ass. You better have a good escape plan.
I'm telling you, man. If you have 100 men, that's a lot more men than you think it is. And that gorilla is not as big as you think.
But you're talking about average men. All right.
No, it's an average. Like there's definitely strong men and there's weak men.
Right. So you're gonna. All right.
Everybody's got to know. I'm with you on that, Gene. Everybody's got to know their role.
So you're gonna have casualties. You're gonna have a couple little guys that are just done right off the bat.
Casualties. Done. Yep.
You're gonna have a couple overweight older guys that are probably gonna have heart attacks, not even gonna make it out of the gate. They're just not gonna do it. You're realistically down to 80, I would say 80 to 85 prime capable men. And that might be a little high.
Let's say 22 to 45. We're not gonna get nuts with this. We're not putting 70-year-old men in here.
No, we are. That was the original.
I like that, Gene. I like that.
Yeah, because it's moving the goalposts for you guys.
A 70-year-old man isn't an average man, though.
Yes, it is.
An average man.
Yes, it is. It was 100 average men. It was the original premise was so it wasn't like, oh, I got 100 ex-Navy SEALs in there. Yeah, no shit. Those guys will probably win. They'll figure it out.
70 is not average. What's the average age in America?
Nobody said average age. You said average man.
Yeah, so I would say, in my mind, I would say average man, you would have your whatever the average height is, 5'8", 200 pound, 5'9", 200 pound, 35-year-old in there that works at a bank office or something.
Yeah, bankers are violent people. I mean, gouge the eyes out. Yeah, I mean, that's all cool until he opens his mouth and you see those 2-foot daggers that he's got in there. One of those gets punctured in you. That's the end of you too. No way. No
casualties.
Thanks, bro.
He doesn't know what he's looking at.
All right, let's move on to you. Got to be kidding me.
They fight for dominance, bro. They're not new to violence. You're gonna have people in that arena that have never been in a fight in their life, and now you want to go kill a gorilla. Good luck.
I'm telling you, dude. 100 of them.
Teamwork, though. Teamwork. I know you've never punched anybody. We got to go kill that 500 pound.
That's every single man that plays softball Tuesday night.
Yeah, perfect. You tell me you're going into war with 100 dudes from Tuesday night because I'm out. Don't ask me. I'm not going because we're losing.
You're forced. You're locked in the.
It's them or me. It's them or me.
Then Deuces. I'm out. I don't play Tuesday.
There is no out. Volunteering going in there. It's like the Dark Knight Rises. Like you're walking across the sea of the ice, or you're dead. That's it. You have a choice.
Fine, bro. I'd rather freeze in the water. I'm not letting that thing eat me. Bro, you know how painful that's gonna be? You're gonna be alive as he's killing you.
You wouldn't fight for your life? You have a choice. Fight for your life or
see, it's my choice to get in there. If I don't have to get in there, I'm not getting in there.
You're drafted.
You guys are
in there.
It's drafted. Now we're drafting people.
Yep. You were drafted. You can't say no. You can't Eli Manning. You can't Shador this thing. You're in there.
Yeah, my interview went terrible. Don't pick me. The great guerrilla war of 2025. I'm out.
Let's move on to you. Got to be kidding me. Cottrell.
All right. So this week for me, I'm going to go back to the hardwood. And I'm going with one Tyler Hero of the Miami Heat. So obviously he had a bad week. I mean, his Miami Heat got swept. But after game 3, he had two of the most ridiculous things to say. So the first thing he said was, and this was in response to a question they asked him about Jimmy Butler. And his exact words were, quote, "Obviously, I know we need Jimmy to win. I feel like it'd be a completely different situation if he was here. We may not even be the 8th seed." Now that's bad enough in itself. Like Jimmy's been off the team for months at this point. And you're talking about, obviously, we know we need Jimmy to win, and it'd be different if he was still here. That's an afterthought. That there was no mending that bridge. I wouldn't have even answered that question regardless of how it was posed to me. But then he goes on to say, we're not going out 4-0. And the following game, Tyler Hero and the Miami Heat lose by 55 points. Not only do they lose by 55 points, I want to bring up the exact box score here as well, just to see how much of a contribution Tyler Hero had in that specific game. Because he didn't do anything to stop that from happening. So we'll get it all pulled up here. Final game, Tyler Hero ended up with 4 points. He was 1 of 10 from the field and 1 of 9 from 3. So a guy that tried to talk a big game. I get it. You want to say the right things there, but saying definitively, we are not going to go out 4-0, and then you put up 4 points and you only make one shot in that elimination game is very rich for me. So this week, Tyler Hero.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
All right. I'm gonna go. Sorry, Cottrell. I'm gonna go with the fans of the Cleveland Guardians this week.
No, a fan. A.
All right, fine. A fan, whatever. He's still yours. A fan, one fan. Boston Red Sox were in town this past weekend. And obviously Jared Duran is on that team, plays outfield for the Red Sox. If you're not familiar with the story, he came out at the beginning of the season, and admitted to ESPN in an interview that a couple years ago, he seriously considered killing himself and committing suicide. Went through a lot of mental health struggles, obviously, and went through a lot of counseling and decided to, dedicate himself back to baseball and made it all the way back up to the big leagues and has had a good couple years. Well, the one Cleveland Guardian fan over the weekend decided to take heckling a little too far and started screaming at him that he should have killed himself and he should have ended it and blah, blah, blah. And of course, Jaron, I mean, that's something hard not to hear. Alerted everybody to him, got thrown out. I think I read that guy's banned from the stadium. Cottrell, you could probably verify that, as he should be. But listen, we're all passionate sports fans. I mean, it's one of the reasons we do this podcast. I understand buying tickets to a game, and I understand booing and heckling and all that good stuff. I have fun doing it myself, and it's a good time. There's lines, though. We've talked about it before. We've talked about it numerous times on the show about people getting death threats over stupid stuff. Have it be fantasy football, or we talked about it with Angel Reese, her getting death threats for really nonsense, to be quite honest. And it's happened with other athletes. To be that kind of scumbag to sit there and watching a baseball game and telling a guy who was literally on the verge of taking his own life, but then to have, the courage and the will to put your life all the way back together and then play, a professional sport, which I don't think people realize how stressful that is by itself. I think people look at these athletes and they're just like, oh, they make millions of dollars and they have fun and, whatever. There's a lot of stress to be a professional athlete. I think we've seen it across the board in every sport. To sit there in front of kids and other people you came to the game with and think you're being funny and make suicide jokes when there's thousands of people every day in this country that take their own life, it's really shitty. And again, I will heckle anybody with the best of them, but there's lines. Buying a ticket does not entitle you to show up to a game and tell somebody and use somebody's pretty much deepest, darkest secret that he decided to share and sit there and scream at him for 3 innings of a game that you should have offed yourself and, you would have been better off committing suicide and et cetera, et cetera. You're a shitty human being. I'm really surprised the Twitter campaign hasn't started to figure out, when they do, who this guy is and, find out who, where he works and all that stuff. But it probably will at some point. But whoever that guy is, for just being an absolute piece of shit, you got to be kidding me this week.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Now I have to. This is a great one, by the way. I have to go to 2 because we didn't get a chance to talk about something, and I'm going to use that as my main one. I do want to give Tyrese Halliburton's father, John Halliburton, a little quick. You got to be kidding me. Look, John, very proud his son won, and what he did was wrong. And the way he disputed it, I found was funny. He goes, "I didn't curse," because like Giannis said he cursed, and he goes, "Oh, I don't curse. I didn't curse at him." John Halliburton deserves it. You got to be kidding me for getting in Giannis's face. So I'll be quick with that one. John Halliburton, stay on the bench. Tyrese told you, stay on the bench, stay on the bench.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I ask you guys a question real quick. Do you guys know at a minimum how many players have received prank calls during the 2025 NFL draft this year?
I think it's 3 now, isn't it?
Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, Shador, Kyle McCord did.
So it's more than even it was. I know. I saw Mason's come out this morning. I thought there was somebody else too.
Shador Sanders, Tyler Warren, Kyle McCord, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, and Chase Lunt have all reported that they've received prank calls. Do you know which one's televised? Shador Sanders. And you know why it's televised? Because not only did the son of defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, Jax, prank call Shador Sanders, he then posted the video on his TikTok with his face in it. Of all the dumb moves that you can pull, you prank call a guy and then you post it on social media, knowing that I recognize that guy. I know who that kid is. That guy's Jax Ulbrich, defensive coordinator, son. The Atlanta Falcons now were fined $250,000. Jeff Ulbrich was fined $100,000. And I don't believe Jeff Ulbrich had anything to do with this, but it is negligent to leave that iPad out with people's numbers on it. The kid's a dumbass. It was a stupid thing. He released an apology, but it was dumb to prank call Shador Sanders. It was incredibly dumb. And an absolute, you got to be kidding me, to post the video on social media so everybody can find out it was you. So for that, this week, Jax Ulbrich.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, to add on to yours, I literally just opened Twitter, and I guess one of his friends posted the Mason Graham one. And this one's not any better.
Oh, God.
He calls. He says, "This is Kevin Stefanski. You want to be a Brown, buddy?" Mason Graham, yes, sir. Kid then answers, "Dumb fuck. You're a shitty fucking clown. We're not drafting you," and hangs up. And it's on video, and they're all laughing. Nah, I'll be honest. I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon, to be honest.
I think he's going to eventually get kicked out of school.
Especially if these videos keep popping up.
Absolute dumbass. And you might cost your dad a very good job.
Facts.
Because one of them is an issue. Now there's multiple ones, and there's more and more and more. The NFL tried to sweep the first one under the rug. $250,000 fine, $100,000 fine. Now there's 2. Now there's 3. Oh.
I just sent it to both of you.
I will check it out after the show. Cottrell, you posted it on social media. Am I allowed to publicly congratulate you?
Yeah.
I want to publicly congratulate you and Audia. They're expecting their first child, and I couldn't be happier for the awesome couple. I was there when they got married. I've known them for years, and I'm super, super happy for you and your family. And I wanted to end the show with that final note by saying, I love you guys. I wish you guys nothing but success. And if you ever need me, I have no problem driving out there to help.
Definitely appreciate it.
I will echo the sentiment. You two do. I mean, listen. I mean, you guys are both family. I mean, obviously, just since we've all started this together, so I couldn't have been happier for either one of you. You know, and you know, I don't know if I would let Gene babysit my kid, but I mean, that's that's your decision. But no, but honestly, I mean, thrilled to death for both of you. The only thing that sucks is, I mean, I guess you're gonna raise as a Buckeyes fan, so that poor kid. But it's fine. But no, love you guys both. Congratulations. Obviously, I hope everything goes smooth and as swimmingly as possible. And we get, you know, we'll have a baby Simpson running around the show now. It'll be fun.
Yeah, officially gonna have a new youngest fan in November. So definitely appreciate it, guys. Yeah.
Hopefully he's born in time to watch Ohio State lose again.
Oh, when's the expected date?
November 5th.
So
he's early. He's gonna be late.
Man.
Don't they always say the first one's usually late or early?
November 5th. If it comes 9 days early, you can have the same birthday as Gene Walls had. But I was wondering if he said something like October, I was gonna be like, that was a national championship celebration. That's what that was. I'm just checking. I don't know.
I mean, November 5th is not that far off, so I mean, it's like a week.
Be February.
Yeah,
true. But yeah, control.
I was just gonna say, what was I gonna say? Oh, I still do have two final things here as well. One, Audie's birthday is also this upcoming Friday, so definitely want to wish her a happy early birthday there. She's I don't know why she made that face, but again, I said it 2 weeks ago when we had like our anniversary beforehand, and spoke about that, but appreciate like all the support. Obviously, being able to do the podcast, you guys, takes up a ton of time, and she basically has been giving up her Wednesdays for 4 years at this point. So definitely appreciate that. And yeah, hope you have a great birthday. We're going to be going up to Cleveland, so should be a fun one. And then the other thing I wanted to go over this week is we have our final edition of Real Recognizes Real for the season, and we have to end it with the guy that plays both ways, receiver, cornerback, Travis Hunter. So just to give you guys a little sneak peek here.
Hike! This is a desperation throw. The play clock's running down. Come on. That's it. On first down, Jefferson gets away from one. And superhuman pick from Travis Hunter. Put the cape on him already. First down, Colorado.
I have one thing to share. Liz just said congratulations, and she also said best of luck having a Scorpio, Cottrell. She said we're a real treat.
Scorpio, baby. Scorpios.
I mean, that's why I'm stressed out. I have two main Scorpios in my life.
Liz and who?
You.
I don't know what you're talking about. Love y'all. Any final comments, Charlie? Anything else?
No, I think it's it. I think, like I said, I mean, I hope the baby's born in time to watch Ohio State lose again, so just knows what it's in for. No, I'm just kidding. Other than that, no, I couldn't be happier for both of them. All
right, well, we're 20 minutes past due, so thank you guys for tuning in this week to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walls. That's Papa Control, Papa Control 6. and Uncle Shally, Scholastic Shally, and Mr. William Shawcross. And we are signing out. Congrats, y'all.